Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got a video covering the nerf of the British Tier 10 Premium Medium Tank, the Centurion AVRE. Now if you do like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the Centurion AVRE. I said 2 years ago, I think the video came out in April of 2023, that I would never make another video on this tank again until it got nerfed or changed because of just how toxic and stupid it was. And here we are 2 years down the line, it's been nerfed. And what's changed about it? Well, the armour on the tank has got generally a lot worse because this dozer blade's been nerfed, which means that you can pen the lower plate of this vehicle very, very easily now. It's not a tank that will bounce your 250, 60, 70, 80, 90, 300 plus rounds off of the lower plate like it did before, because it always bounced those. And occasionally shots can go through this dozer blade as well, which means the armour is a lot less effective on the Centurion AVRE than it was before, which is good, because what this thing would always do is drive around the corner, bounce all the shots off of this section here, and the lower plate as well, which it should never really bounce shots off of the lower plate, as it was 40mm of thickness in terms of spaced armour and 80 on the lower plate. So it was 120 together, and then spaced armour mechanics in there. And you're thinking 250 plus pen rounds should not bounce off of that. But they did, ridiculously reliably, which was irritating. And it would bounce the shots off of that dozer blade, and then it would derp you for 1400 or 1100, right? So it gets penned a lot easier now. They did nerf the gun in terms of the penetration and the accuracy during rotation. And the penetration, you do feel a little bit on the premium rounds because it's lost about 20 pen on the premium rounds, so you pen a lot less with those rounds than you thought you would if you took a shot at the side of something. But generally, you still pen a lot of the tanks in the spots that you did beforehand. So the penetration nerf, yeah, it's been nerfed, but you don't feel it that badly, quite honestly. You still get some ridiculous pens with this vehicle, and the damage output that it does is still absolutely nutty. It still can do it. And what we're going to do in this video is go over the statistics of it now it's fully been nerfed. We're going to go over the nerfs themselves, show you my setup for it, and then show you 3 replays in the tank to show you how it competes now it's been nerfed. And like I say, I don't really think if you were to take this tank out, you're going to feel it that badly in terms of the nerfs. All you're going to feel is the fact that people actually pen you that little bit easier than they did before, which will probably be a little bit annoying for you, but generally it will still push out a lot of damage very, very easily. And you'll see that in some of the replays. Oh boy, we had an absolute storm in one of them. So, the actual AVRE itself. What got nerfed? Well, as you can see, the hull armour got nerfed. So the armour panel 9, which is the top supports, went from 20mm to 10mm, which is this section here. So that went down to 10mm of thickness, which will help in not taking random shots or absorbing random shots that go for the turret front. The armour panel 14, which is the dozer blade, went from 30mm of thickness to 15mm of thickness, and that's this blade here. Now, I'm not that happy that that got nerfed, because I feel like this is a section that probably shouldn't get penned through, as it is a bit easier to protect you from RBRT shells, right? Because a lot now it's the case where 250, 60, 70, 80, 300 plus rounds actually go through this dozer blade as well, which can be a bit annoying. And I feel like that section there should bounce rounds and it will protect you from RBRT, but it doesn't quite do that anymore. So that's one that I kind of think that probably should have been left as it was. But the big one is the armour panel 17, which is the blade supports, which went from 40mm of thickness to 10mm of thickness. That's this section here and here, which means now that this lower plate is a lot easier to pen on this tank. It doesn't get those stupid bouncers that it did before, because it would be so frustrating when you fired, you're playing your tank, you're in the IS-7, you've got 300 and odd pen on your APCR round, you fire it at the lower plate of the AVRE, it bounces, and you sit there going, what? How did that bounce? Now, that doesn't really happen. Generally, this thing is a lot easier to pen in that lower plate. Heat rounds and HE will still end up getting absorbed at times, or just splash, because spaced armour, and that's fair enough. But AP and APCR definitely won't have a problem going through this anymore. Because it's slightly angled on the spaced armour, occasionally you might ricochet, but for the most part, because it's a lot thinner, you'll go straight through it. So that's definitely very, very nice in terms of that armour now for fighting against it. But it still will hit you very hard if it does get a shot at you. As the shot dispersion penalty during during rotation went from 0.02 to 0.22, which is a fairly minor nerf to the turret dispersion. It means that the aim circle will get larger or a bit more larger when you turn this turret, but because of crew skills, equipment, that sort of thing, you'll get it down a lot lower. Naturally, when the crew and equipment skill change come in, you'll feel a massive difference in the gun handling, which will probably be good in terms of playing against the AVRE. It won't snapshot you quite as easily because the gun handling will be a lot worse, but at the minute, it doesn't really feel that much different in terms of its gun handling. Penetration went from 185 on the standard HESH to 170, and like I say, most of the time you still pen a lot of plates that you would have done with 185 with that 170, that you just get the occasional splash that's a bit more surprising. That's about it, really. And the premium pen went from 240 on the HESH to 220. Now, you do feel that. There is actually quite a lot of shots that don't pen with that round that would have done beforehand, and you do feel that difference a little bit more. Meaning that a lot of the time you will fire the standard HESH to splash more a lot more often than you will. It's really going to be down to you and your knowledge of where you can pen things for 220 with that HESH round. So that you do feel that difference, but it still pens for a lot, and it still pens quite a few tanks in a lot of the spots you would have done anyway, right? The blast radius went from 4.95 to 4.22, and I can hear you going, oh, who cares about that? That is not the most significant change in the universe, but it does mean that your round, when it splashes a vehicle, doesn't splash over quite as significant an area of the vehicle that it hits, which means it doesn't actually do quite as much splash damage with either of the two rounds, which is better than it was before, but it still splashes for a lot because it's a lot higher on the alpha, right, at 1400 or 1100. And the module damage, if it pens, got nerfed from 244 to 233, so it's a lot less chance of doing module damage, but it's a HE round, and it's quite high module damage, which means if the HE round pens, it will still do a lot of damage, to be fair. So let's have a look at the commander and equipment setup that I run on this vehicle so that you can see what I've taken to get the statistics down to where they are. So on the AVRE, I have been running Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Steady Aim, Run and Gun, Snapshot, Camouflage Expertise, and Silent Driving. Silent Driving and Camouflage Expertise just to knock the camo down a little bit, because it's not got the best camo in the universe, but having that little bit extra camo can be pretty handy for this tank, as there's a fair few situations where you can stay unspotted until you fire, and when you fire, naturally, you'll get spotted, people will shoot you. But the thing is, if you can stay unspotted to get that sneak shot off to hit people for 1400 or 1100, it's pretty filthy to be able to do that, and that's why I run it. You could definitely drop Silent Driving or Camouflage Expertise, both of those really, to run something like Rapid Aim and Track Mechanic, because the vehicle does get tracked quite often, and because of the way you have to angle the tank to be able to get the gun down on target, like I say, that's where it gets tracked a lot, so it's nice to have Track Mechanic. But that's just what I run. Again, it's down to you and how you want to kit out the vehicle as to how you're going to get the best out of it. All three gun perks, because we really want to help this gun out as much as possible, as this 165mm gun is still a howitzer, which means it can be derpy at times and can be a bit frustrating to use if you do not help out the gun with all three gun perks. And then in terms of the equipment, I run the Advanced Loader, the Advanced Reload, and the Optics. Optics to be able to get the 512 meters of view range, which means I can spot for myself really, really easily in this vehicle, just like most of the medium tanks at tier 10, meaning that I can spot my own targets and then derp away. The Advanced Reload, the ammo swapper, to get to switch between the two rounds, as both rounds have a great utility, and depending on the situation, I might want the high pen rounds and lower alpha, and sometimes I might just want to splash people and hit them harder with a splash, or I know that I can pen them with 170 pen and get that 1400 pen in. It's really, really flexible in that way to be able to use the two different rounds. And the Advanced Loader to get the best out of the DPM on this tank, or the best out of the reload in general, as you want to do. And if you're wondering, it's a medium tank, why aren't you running a gun stabilizer if you say the gun is derpy? It's a medium tank with a big caliber gun, and it can't run the gun stabilizer, so that's why we don't run it. If you didn't want to switch between the two shells in terms of utility, and you just wanted to go easy mode and just fire the standard HESH and never load the premium, which you could do, just so you know that if you're going to pen with 170, you're going to hit them hard, or you're just going to splash them for 600-700. You could run the camo net as well, and if we looked at the camouflage with that, it'd knock it down to 304 meters of still concealment, which is really good for this kind of tank, and again, makes you very, very difficult to spot, and you could just catch people out and smack them hard with the gun. But it's really down to you and how you want to play the vehicle and how you're going to get the most out of it in that regard. Let's have a quick look at the modules on this vehicle, because like I say, if you're facing against this thing does like to get set on fire if it gets shot by a higher caliber round in the back engine deck, which is where the engine is. The ammo racks are there, which means this thing does like getting its ammo rack damaged if it gets shot through the drive wheel. So if you get shot and tracked and penned there, which is quite likely because you're going to have to angle that way to get the gun down, a lot of the time you'll get your ammo rack damaged, and that's where the crew sit in the AVRE. And like I say, when you're facing against this thing, as you can see, 10mm of armour. So the top support is what we were talking about a minute ago. That's what got changed to 10mm of armour, and that's what got changed to 10mm of armour from 40. And then you've got the 15mm plate, which is now that dozer blade, which is down from 30. And like I say, that's one that I kind of wish stayed at 30, because that'd save you a bit more from the RBRTs, because it's one of those things, we want this tank to still be able to be usable, but we don't want to absolutely kill it, but it did need the nerf, and I still think that that blade there being changed is a little bit overkill, but there you go. But on the whole, what you're going to be doing with this vehicle is shooting it through the lower plate, shoot it here, aim for these supports here or in between, as that's where you will pen it, and you will pen it fairly reliably. Or if you aim for the flatter section of the dozer blade up here as well, and you've got higher pen rounds that you get at tier 10, you can go through that section there. Obviously, you can try and hit the turret front as well, or the little cupola on top, but the turret front is extremely trolled to pen on the Centurion AVRE, as it is that Centurion turret, and a lot of the time you'll hit the flat section of the cheek with 300 plus rounds and go, aha, I should pen that bounce. And you sit there going, why? Why did that bounce? And that's what has always been a frustration with the AVRE, right? But yeah, that's the armour on the AVRE with the changes. So let's look at the statistics now of the vehicle. So as you can see, we've got a 48 km/h top speed, 16 km/h reverse speed, 695 horsepower engine, which is 12.2 horsepower per ton ratio, which is slow and sluggish. That's what this vehicle is. It is slow and sluggish to get up to its top speed, depending on the terrain, because you've got 1.75 on soft, 1.01 on medium, and 0.92 on firm. That's not that bad, great terrain resistance whatsoever, but it can be slow to get there, and you've really got to pay attention to what kind of terrain you're going over, and also what gap you're going to cross, because it will be a bit slow and sluggish to get across it, which means you can take some easy shots and take too easier damage. You've got 20% internal fire chance, which is on the high end of fire chances, and like I say, if you get shot in that back end, that's where you're likely to get set on fire with this vehicle. 30 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed is alright, it's alright, hull traverse, and generally it does feel a bit slower to turn left and right. That adds to the lethargy of the tank in the way it feels on its mobility. 343 metres of still concealment with 351 metres on the move concealment isn't great, to be fair, but we've helped it out a little bit to get that a little bit lower. It is a lot worse if you don't take the camo skills. 512 metres of view range is good enough to spot for yourself in this vehicle, just like it is in most tier 10 medium tanks. 39.1 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed is faster than the tracks, and if you know me, that makes me happy. You've got a 2.03 accuracy during rotation with a 3.16 accuracy during movement, which isn't great, and it means that the aim circle does bloom out quite a bit. And then you have to wait on the aim time, which is 2.3. That's pretty standard for a big caliber gun, which means the aim circle is rather large for it when you are moving or turning the turret. But a 2.3 second aim time for this kind of gun is very, very quick. And it means that, yeah, sure, it does bloom out, but it doesn't take very long to get this gun aimed in on target, and it then hits hard. It's one of the things that I did feel they probably should have changed about the 165mm gun, is that for the mobility of it and the durability of the armour, the gun handling on it is still pretty damn fantastic, and I felt like if the aim circle was going to bloom out quite a bit, they should have made it so that you have to sit and aim for that little bit longer to be able to get the shots out. So maybe having a 2.5 second or a 2.6 second aim time just to help that out, because the 4005 has a pretty decent aim time on its 183mm gun, which is a fairly similar damage, but then that thing's got absolutely zero armour, you know. Death Star's got a lot longer in terms of the aim time, but that's got armour that's worse than this, really, to be honest. But yeah, it's got armour still not all the same. So it felt like the aim time probably should have been that little bit worse, but yeah, hey-ho. 2.3 second aim time means you don't really feel it that badly, and yeah, you'll feel that you have to wait for it to aim in, but it doesn't take long, and then you'll be able to smash out with this tank. 10 degrees of gun depression is great, but bear in mind that it is only over the side of the vehicle, so if you're trying to get 10 degrees of gun depression over the dozer blade, it's not going to work. You're going to have to angle it more like this to get shots over this section here, or this section here, to be able to get the 10 degrees of gun depression out of the tank and actually get the gun down on target. So bear that in mind if you're thinking, it says 10 degrees of gun depression but it doesn't feel like it, it's because it's not over the front of the tank. And if we could just press the right buttons, there we go. We've now got that 0.34 accuracy at 100 meters, which is still really, really accurate for this kind of high alpha gun. 18.96 second reload is 4.4k DPM. You don't really pay attention to the DPM that much, because that's if you pen the HE rounds, which, you know, HE, Hesh, it can be a bit of a pain, as it can hit spaced armor and just detonate. So you can hit the thinnest armor in the universe, but if it's got 10-20mm of spaced armor, it can still just detonate the HE. And so you won't pen it. So that's only if you pen the HE, which doesn't happen as much as you'd hope. But if you hit the right spots, because you've got 170 pen on the standard or standard hash and 220 pen on the premium hash, you hit the right spots, you will pen that, and you will do some significant damage, as you're going to see in the replays. As you've got 1400 damage on the standard hash round and 1100 damage on the premium hash round, so you have the trade-off of loading the premium hash, which has higher pen but lower damage. So you use that in situations where you know you can pen a tank with that 220 pen in a certain section, if you can't pen it with the 170. But know that most of the time you're going to be firing the standard hash, as you can pen that hash round for 1400, it's going to be beautiful. But also, with that 1400 damage, you are going to splash for a lot more with that standard hash round, so that's going to be most people's standard choice of round to fire. Not just because it's got lower... you're not going to be loading the premium just because it fires and pens a lot more, because it's got higher pen. It's not one of those where you can do that, because you're sacrificing the highest splash as well, because there's going to be quite a lot of tanks that you can't pen with 220. You're not going to pen with 170, so you're going to want to splash them like a Type 5 Heavy or a Mouse. So you load the 170 pen hash, 1400 damage, and you'll splash for 700-800 damage, or 700 really. It's 600 to 700. Whereas you'll splash for a lot less with the 1100. So it's one of those that you've got the trade-off on the two rounds as to which one you want to load. You got 570 meters a second shell velocity on the standard hash rounds and 685 meters a second shell velocity on the premium hash rounds, which is very slow, meaning you have to give a lot of lead at distance to be able to hit your targets with the AVRE. And trust me, you do have to give a lot of lead. It is a derpy gun in terms of that, and it's the shell velocity that makes it feel derpy, because you have to give that lead. But generally, if you get this thing fully aimed and you're hitting stationary targets, or you're up close and personal, you don't really feel it that badly anyway. And as it is a tier 10 premium, you don't get any bonuses, because that's what tier 10 premiums don't get. But yeah, the AVRE, the nerf to it, yeah, sure, it's hurt it in terms of the armor. It's a lot easier to pen this thing, which is great, because that takes a bit of the annoyance out of facing this tank, because it was one of those that was very irritating to play against, because it would derp you for 1400, and then you just bounce relentlessly off the frontal armor, whereas now, the stupid bounces, especially that you used to get on this lower plate, is a lot easier to pen, which is great. But it still does have that toxic element of pain with the gun, in the fact that it is very easy to just drive around a corner, go, oh, hello, friend, derp for 1400, and pull back. And you still can bounce things, because spaced armor and generally the armor on it is still Centurion-esque, it's still pretty good. But yeah, the gun is still pain, and it will absolutely smash home with that. So if you think, oh my god, they've nerfed the AVRE, they're going to make it the worst thing ever now, it's not. It's really not. It's still very, very good at what it does. So yeah. So what we're going to do is send you into the replays, where you can watch this tank in action, see how it handles, and see what it's like now it's been nerfed. So as always, everybody, I will see you in the replays. So here we are in the replays with the Centurion AVRE, this very first game we're here on proc, which, you know, you could be looking at going, this is a bit awkward for Centurion AVRE, because we don't have that 10 degrees of gun depression over the front, we have it over the side, so how we approach these ridgeline fights is pretty awkward, and we've got to be measured in how we go about trying to get the gun down to get shots. But to be honest, with the way it is on proc, it doesn't really matter, because sure, if a tank comes directly in front of us, we're going to struggle to get the gun down on target to hit them. But a lot of the time when we're taking the position that we're going to be here at E4, we're going to be shooting at people up on the ridge line along the 1 line, or trying to shoot people along the 6 line, which means we're looking over the left or right of the tank anyway, so we can get that 10 degrees of gun depression by doing that. But it's a pretty decent situation for the vehicle anyway, because we can basically poke over, drop the HESH shell out, which would just splash that M5Y for 588, and pull back and just wait for the reload, because naturally it's a derp gun, and a 165mm derp gun, it's going to take a wee while to be able to get the shell in, which means there's a bit of downtime, and with this kind of map you get the ability to be able to have that downtime to be able to get the shells in. So we bounced a shell for 850 there off of our turret front, because it ricocheted off the turret, and I think, what was that? Was that a Tyran or something like that? I'm not really 100% sure, because naturally the Tyran's been nerfed this patch, which now has 850 alpha instead of 950, so that could be one of the options. So we're just waiting on the reload after we took that blind fire, because you might be going, well, why did you blind fire? Well, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. 100% of the shots you don't take. You do miss them. So if I can blind fire the position where there's normally a TD camping, which is up on top of the little train tracky section, and we can hit it blind, that'd be great, because we might dissuade it from just sitting there and trying to pop shots at us. Because at the minute, it's a bit awkward, trying to get over to get shots at the BZ-68 or the M5Y or any of those vehicles, because if I get spotted, I can get shot from over that left-hand side, and I'll take some big 850 Alpha shell, and I don't want that. So we put a HESH shell into the side of the Tortoise there. We did load the 220 pen premium HESH rounds so that I could have a higher chance of being able to go through that guy's side, but it didn't work, and we only splashed him for 243. Which, like I say, before the nerf, we probably would have splashed him for a little bit more there, but there we go. We take the shot at the Super Conqueror, who did get unspotted, but you could see with the way I was moving it, I was making it as difficult as possible for him to be able to get the shot at us, which meant he just sat still in that same position that he was, so that even though he was unspotted, I was keeping my aim circle in the exact spot where he was. And so I fired before he got spotted, and we managed to hit him, even though he got spotted after he fired, right? There was a lot of getting spotted. But yeah, we managed to hit them for a decent amount, which dissuaded him from trying to take shots at us, and he got himself back behind the train carriages. The T-49 hits us on the move. I missed him. Mr. T-49, you're annoying. That's RNG for you, right? That's RNG for you. So we've nearly got the gun loaded, and I'm trying to think of where my next target is going to be. If I can get a shot into the side of the M5Y, that would be great. He gets unspotted, I take the shot. Probably shouldn't have done because it was never going to go in. We bounce another shot off the turret front from the whatever the tank is at the back, because it was another 850 Alpha round. Because like I say, you can get shots through the front a lot easier now on the Centurion AVRE. But if they hit the turret front, it's a Centurion turret. And the Centurion turret is still a pretty strong turret, which means that if it's using the 10 degrees gun depression, it's not on flat ground, that sort of thing, it can still bounce a good amount of shots off of that turret front. So in a position like this, it is still strong. And that's where it's still pretty deadly, because we can just bounce shots off the turret, and if we catch someone out, we splash them for 500, 600, 700 damage, or we pen them for 1400 or 1100. You know, it's that deadliness that we get off of it. So we see where the shell tracer came from. I'm pretty sure he's up on top of the train tracks in that section there. I'm not 100% sure where, though. I know he's on that section on top of the hill. It's whether he's on the left-hand side of the bridge or the right-hand side of the bridge, because he could see us from either side there. So we popped a shot at whatever it was. Again, did not hit it, because you never know. When you splash people, you can panic them, and they'll go, oh my god, how did they shoot me? I wasn't spotted, and then they'll leave that position, making it a bit easier for you to get safe. So we aimed for the back end of the Centurion AVRE there, because I was hoping to possibly hit the engine deck and pen it with the 170 pen, but we splashed him for 605. Tortoise is out spotted now as well, so once again, I'm just keeping myself moving so it's a lot harder to hit me and pen me. We got a bit lucky that we bounced the shot from what is actually an E4. It was the E4 that we were bouncing earlier on. We got lucky that we bounced that guy with that shot there, and he got spotted. But we didn't bounce the shot from the right-hand side, which I think was the Tortoise that actually penned us through the side of the turret. And we only splashed him for 100-odd on top of his tank. And once again, that's where I'm saying where the blast radius hinders it a little bit with the nerf, because we're just splashing this guy with our standard HESH round for a lot more. Not a lot more, but we'd have still been splashing him for a lot more. And we're not quite getting the rolls that we want. There's now an Andre the Giant. An Andre the Giant? Ooh, you don't see those very often. That's a rarity in this game right there. An Andre the Giant. Wow. Oh no, that's a side-on Tiger Mouse. That poor guy. He was just trying to play his ultimate pass tank. Oh. 170 pen can go through the side of a Tiger Mouse that's flat, like that. We avoid the tracks, we penned him for nearly 1300. That's most of his hit points gone. We're up to 3.4k damage with that 909 assistance damage. Again, looking for the position where I think that E4 might have put himself. We take the blind fire, because once again, there's nothing really to fire at. There's no point just wasting time. If we can get some free damage, that's what we're going to try and do. Again, 100% of the shots you don't take. So the IS-4's going very aggressively over the top of the ridgeline, which is bouncing shots left, right, and centre. But he's also spotting up some of the tanks that are at the back. But by him doing that, we now know there was... Oh, it's actually an ST2 that's gone over, not an IS-4. The ST2. But by him going over, we now know there's at least 2 or 3 tanks that are down there under that bridge that were firing, because they all fired at him as he came over, and, well, he got away with it. We see the Ag Tiger aim up at his side. From this angle, we might pen it. Well, we do. 1325 into the side of that Ag Tiger, straight through for 4.7k damage. At that kind of angle with 170 pen, I thought I might pen it, which is why I didn't switch to the higher pen rounds. And I thought, well, if I don't, I'll still splash it for a lot anyway. And yeah, we got the pen on that guy. We aim up the shot now onto the M5Y, and you can see what I'm saying about the aim time on the AVRE. It's 2.3 seconds. And for the kind of alpha we're hitting for, it really doesn't feel that long at all. You just sit there going, yeah, I'm aiming, ah, there we go, we've hit it. Because the gun handling is really good for this kind of gun. And it's been no real problem, except for the occasional time where RNG, because RNG is still a thing, right? But it's been no problem hitting things and getting the exact shot that I want most of the time. RNG is still a factor. RNG still likes to go, as you miss the shot. But yeah, generally, the gun handling on this vehicle is still very, very good for what is a high alpha gun. So we finished the game with the victory there. We came top on the team with 2 kills, 5.7k damage, the 1467 assistance, second class with that 1478 base XP. Pretty good game there for the AVRE on Prokhorovka, and I feel like that showed everything of the tank generally. The armour on it, where you can still bounce a lot of shots off the turret, but if they hit the upper lower plate, they can still pen you. The gun handling generally is pretty good. The pen, yeah, it got nerfed, but you can still pen a lot of the tanks you were trying to pen in those spots anyway with that kind of rounds. And then you're still hitting people very, very hard with this 165mm gun. So we're on to the second replay. And the second replay, we're here on this map, which is a map that I hate, Dragon's Ridge. How could I not? How did it take me 2 seconds to think of what Dragon's Ridge is? I hate this map. Although we got the good spawn, because our spawn is far better than their spawn. So on Dragon's Ridge, what I want to do in the Centurion AVRE is go to this little corner here at E4, because I can poke around the corner, shoot things as they cross over to fight on the 1-2 line. I can shoot people who sit at D4-5, and if I need to, I can shoot people that go aggressive along the 7 line as well. There's plenty of flexibility from this position, which is why we want to do it. So we're just going to use the mobility of the tank to get there, which, like I say, it is a bit slow and sluggish, this vehicle, to be able to get yourself into position, because it's not the best mobility in the universe. The Mantis got spotted behind us, came over, lost pretty much most of his hit points because we've got the TD sitting in the TD spot. That's a very, very strong position. We bounce the Centauro, load the 220 pen Hesh, 1055 straight through his lower plate. Because he snapped the shot there, he actually hit the dozer blade and not even the tank. Bounced his shot, and then we said, well, I do have good penetration on my premium Hesh, and I can go through your lower plate. And so we took off half his hit points very, very quickly. We're up to 1064 assistance as well, because if people push around that corner where that Centauro did, they generally get farmed by our TD spot, which is the OP TD spot at J4, because they can sit in that position and never really ever get spotted unless someone manages to get close to them. And so you do have a lot of cover if you do take this position. So you saw me there destroying the destructible wall. I destroyed the destructible wall because naturally my Hesh rounds cannot go through it. And we're starting to get farmed by something that is the back down there. And I think, okay, that fired 2-3 shells. Firing APCR, that was an auto-loader. So there's definitely an auto-loader back there that's fired a couple of shells at us. Again, you're seeing with the dozer blade there, that guy went straight through our front. Absolutely no problem. He didn't pen the side of the turret, he penned the lower plate. Which, from that sort of distance, with APCR or something like that, and I think it was a Batchat that did it, before the nerf, he wouldn't have penned those, he'd have bounced. And so that's a little bit of the difference there with the AVRE. You have to think a little bit harder in where you're positioning your armour, because you're not always guaranteed to pen. You can pen, and you can bounce things, because, as you're seeing here, heat rounds hit spaced armour, get absorbed. The AAT-60 hit our side armour at an extreme angle. It's a Centurion hull. It may not have the best armour in the universe, but it's good enough to ricochet shots if it hits at an extreme angle, because you can side scrape with it. He's firing heat, and he's hitting our dozer blade and getting it absorbed. If he was firing APCR there and aiming for the lower plate, he would have been able to go through it. It's one of those things that it will be still a bit tricky to pen it occasionally, depending on the round choice you've got. You still have to be smart about where you're aiming, but it just means that if you actually aim at the weak spots, the lower plate, which is a weak spot, you will actually pen it, which is the key good thing about the nerf that has come in on Tuesday, or the update generally, depending on when you're watching this video. So we're up to 1126 assistance, 2.4k damage. We get spotted and detected again, and I think, is the thing that was back there still there? Yes, it is, as it pens me in the side of the turret. We get fortunate that the Sheridan misses his shot, and, well, yeah, he's just going to die for that. And it's good night, Mr. Sheridan. We're up to... And there we go. That's me looking at the listings there, going, what is it that's shooting me from the back there, staying unspotted? It's a bat chat. That's the only thing I could think of what it'd be. It's got an autoloader. It's firing fairly quickly. It's staying stealth. It's probably the bat chat. We get a shot into the back end of the CS-63. We're up to 3.1k damage with 1126 assistance damage. We put that guy down to the one shot for the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen. And artillery is currently looking at us. So I don't really want to stay in this position anymore because they're going to kill what is the AAT-60 at F1. And a lot of their team that's left is the heavy tanks, 2 artillery, a medium, which is the bat chat that shot us earlier. That AAT-60 I'm expecting is going to die. The heavy tanks were attacking up the 9 line. So what I want to do is try and get after those heavy tanks. Now, the AT-60 managed to kill 2 or 3 of the people that went after him, but the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen managed to shut him down, and the T-92 HMC hits him, which means it's just me, the medium tank at B7, the TD and the medium tank at the back at J4 and K5, and the 2 artillery. So what we need to do is get ourselves into position to catch out these heavy tanks, get a shot into them, and spot them up for my artillery or my TD and medium tank. That's just what we need to try and do. So that's what we're going to try, because I'm expecting the medium tank up at B8 is going to go murder both artillery, which will be fantastic. So we get rid of the artillery, that's great. I crested that little ridge at F6. The reason I did that is because I wanted to try and see if the heavy tanks had gone back, but they hadn't, which is not surprising, because it is team destruction. I'm using this bit of the ridgeline here to see if they were down in the dip, because I don't want to go into too compromising a position, because if I do, they're going to have an easy shot into my side, and depending on what those heavy tanks are, they might just kill me. So, it depends on the alpha, right? So, we're just keeping our eye down in the dip, because I'm fully expecting to spot something. But we're not currently, so I'm just reversing to try and get a better angle of spots along this 8-9 line. I'm expecting the medium tank to possibly find something as well, but we're just not seeing them. And at this point I'm thinking, well, the heavy tank, they definitely didn't make it down the 0 line, did they? Well, in fact, they did. The VK45028, an FV215B, and the E5. So I'm pinging my reload because we managed to kill the VK450A. I'm really hoping the 50B will pull all the way back rather than sitting in front of the 2 heavy tanks. Because he does that, I can support him. But sadly, the E5 ends up shutting him down. So what we're going to do is wait in ambush, because I expect that these guys are going to drive out into the open. So we're just waiting to see if we can get it. We aim up the shot into the FV215B, and the Hesh pens him in the side, because it ends up hitting his engine deck and not his tracks. And we penned him for 1400 damage. So we went from fairly healthy to none at all. Waiting on the reload once again to be able to finish this guy off, because he's never going to get into cover before I reload. Aim up the shot and finish off the FV215B for our 3rd kill of this game, up to 4.8k damage, 1126 assistance. So the Batchat just killed our Batchat up at C9. So I've got that in the back of my brain. I know the heavy tank is at K8, K9. So we need to go close up behind him. I don't feel like he's going to expect a Centurion AVRE to appear and shoot him in the buttocks. And if I'm firing the 170 pen Hesh, I should be able to kill him in one shot, as long as we don't get unlucky. I'm expecting the Batchat will rush down the 9 line and appear at H8, H9. So we need to get rid of this guy quickly, and we can kill him in one shot. So I aim up the shot, back of his turret. Unfortunately, it goes a little bit high, doesn't hit the flat part of the back of his turret. It hits the cupola, or the back of it, and only splashes for 600 damage. We're now detected by artillery, which makes me go, oh boy, that's not good. I need to wait for my reload, though, because I don't want to take a hit from this E5 if I can help it. I just need to be able to splash him to death. So we drive out, put a shot straight through the rear of his tank, because he started worrying about the tank destroyer coming up behind him. And then we get hit by artillery. We get detected. The moment we started to try and pull around that corner, we get detected. Which tells me that the Batchat is probably up at G7, H8. So I have to be as careful as possible here, because that Batchat can now kill me in a shell, if I'm unlucky. So we've got to be so careful about how we approach this, because the guerrilla's gone along the 0 line, so I don't really want to die to the bat chat at this point. We've still got artillery with us, so I'm just trying to poke around the corner and see if I can see the bat chat, which I'm never really going to spot a bat chat, to be perfectly honest, at distance, only if he decided to close up. So I pinged the position where I felt like I got detected from at G6, with like a G6, sorry, digressions. I'm thinking, okay, I want to blind fire that corner, because I feel like he might be sitting on the corner at G7. So I want to try and blind fire that spot. So I'm just trying to find the best angle to see where I'm firing at that corner. There's the angle that I think I want to fire at, and we don't do any damage. And that's because he just gets spotted right over there at K4, attacking our T92, which, not really that surprising, because the bat chat is a very, very mobile medium tank. He's managed to get himself over to K4 very, very quickly. And then he's managed to take out my T92. So what we want to do now, with the guerrilla going and killing their last artillery, is go close down the distance as quickly as we can in the Centurion AVRE to go closing down. Because, well, I say we are a bit slow and sluggish. We generally go between 40 to 48. And even though we're on flat ground at the minute, we're doing about 38 kilometers an hour. And I'm fully expecting that when I drive around one of these corners, I'm not going to find him. He's going to be bat-chatting around. He's going to use his mobility, get out of dodge, and get himself safe. That's what I'm expecting here from this bat-chat, but you never know. So we're just going to drive around this corner, see if he was round here still, and we don't drive around the corner effectively enough. We get the gun aimed down on target. We pulled the trigger just as he killed me. That's one of them where you pull the trigger and you go, I've got you! Oh, I'm dead! Oh. We're finished with 4 kills, the 6.1k damage, the high caliber, the second class, with the 15-13 base XP, because we still managed to win that game. But that was one of those scenarios where I should have driven around the corner a little bit more sideways on, and that's a bit of the awkwardness of the AVRE coming out there, in the fact that the gun handling can be a bit a bit of a pain to be able to get the gun depression down on target, right? Because you have to be over the side of the tank to be able to get that gun depression, which is where you saw the failure of it right there, as we didn't get the gun down in time, and by the time I'd managed to get the gun down and I showed him the weak spot of my armour, he just went, oh, okay, death. The other thing with the bat chat is I felt like with him having auto-loaded the T92 to death, I thought I'd got there quick enough to be able to get to the bat chat before he'd reloaded, so I wasn't really that worried, and I underestimated that. He either held on to a shell, or had managed to reload his full clip before that point, so hey, it is what it is. But we're on to the third and final replay of this video, and oh boy! Oh boy! Yeah, you're not ready for this? This is, yeah, oh yeah, This is one of those games. This is one of those games. So we're on Sword Beach, which is a map that I don't particularly mind, to be fair. I also love the aesthetic of Sword Beach. I love the rain. I love the rain effect on the tank. I love the aesthetics of the way it looks. It's great. Gameplay-wise, it is a bit, but generally, I love the aesthetic of Sword Beach. And we're going to go to the position that is very, very strong, and that is F4. Why is F4 very, very... Oh, no. Hello, Mantis. Oh, I hit. Yep. That's going to sum up the rest of the game. Oh, God. Oh, goodness gracious me. Wow. Yep. 975 on the move. Oh. Well, Mr. Mantis got wrecked. Oh, yeah. This position here at F4 is very, very strong, because I can look over to the left and shoot the people along the 1-2 line. If they get spotted along the 7 line, I can shoot them too. And depending on the position I take here at F4, I can also spot those people. It's a bit more awkward along the 7 line, because they can stay hidden a lot easier, but yeah. We see the side of this mouse. I try and aim in a section where I think I might pen it. And the Hesh did pen it. There's certain sections on the mouse armour, and it's really sad that I remember this, there's certain sections on the mouse armour that if you hit it when it's flat on like that, you can pen it with HE, or heat, because it just won't really get absorbed by the space armour as much. It's still a bit of a 50-50, but you can do it, as you've just seen for 1100. Then we load the 170 pen, because we don't need 220 to go through the lower plate of a chieftain. We can pen the lower plate of a chieftain with 170 pen, and we penned him for 1300. 2 full pens, just like that. We're up to 3.8k damage in less than 3 minutes. Ooh. We see the mouse again. Aim for it again. This time 313 pen. Because it's not a guarantee. It's one of those that if you fire in that same spot that we penned it a minute ago, 50-50. 50% of the time you might go through it. 50% of the time you'll probably splash. And 50% of the time is all the time. It's one of those where you never know whether you will or not. You've just got to chance it and hope that you'll pen it. And as you saw with both shells there, we hit him pretty much in the same spot. One penned, one didn't. And that's what it's like shooting at a mouse with this kind of Hesh gun. But there we go. But we do have Hesh, which means we don't have to worry about penning the mouse. We could see his track, so I aimed for the track, shot his track, splashed him, did a fair bit of damage. We're up to 4.6k damage, 755 assistance, and I decided to go after Mr. Panzer 7, but Mr. Panzer 7 is looking at us, and I think, oh boy, here we go. And there you go, the Panzer 7 pens us straight through the front of the tank. We're trying to get the shot into the Tiger 2, but again, the awkward gun depression means we just about missed the chance to get the shot in. But I realise, oh, I can get a shot here at the Campy Panzer. Hello, Mr. Campy Panzer, I can see your side. 1391. The Panzer 7 knows I fired. He shoots us straight through the lower plate, which again, before nerf, probably wouldn't have penned us. And in fact, actually, he shot us in the side of the turret there with the first shot, but there you go. He wouldn't have penned us that reliably in the lower plate before the nerf. After the nerf, it's easy to do it. He's now coming after us to try and get a shot in, so I'm trying to make it as difficult as humanly possible. Trying to shoot him in the front of the turret, because yet again, it's Panzer 7. Not always going to guarantee pen that with either of my Hesh rounds, whereas I can just splash him in the front for 3, 4, 5, 6, 700, you know. And that's what we went for, but we sadly missed. Waiting on the reload, he's giving it the side of his turret. Maybe we'll get a Hesh shell into the side of his turret, but it doesn't quite work out that way as he pulls back. And Campy Panzer came back for revenge. And, well, Mr. Campy Panzer, I don't take that kind of revenge. Good night, my son. We're up to 6.3k damage with 3 kills. The Panzer 7's now been forced back a little bit because I've gained some friends. So I'm going to see if I can get some shots into Mr. Mouse over here. We can just see him around the corner of the house, but we can't get shots into him. Aim for that engine deck of the AVRE this time. Anyway, straight through the side of his turret. 1,000 odd damage. 7.3, nearly 7.4k damage now with 4 kills. We managed to catch out that AVRE just in time to be able to put in that big damage hit. I really want to be able to get rid of the E4 if I can, but that mouse is sideways on, so we're going for the shot underneath him. So that's what you saw me aim for there, because Hesh, splash damage, that sort of thing, burst radius. If I can land a shell underneath a tank like the mouse, we're hitting him in a spot that is a lot weaker than everywhere else on his vehicle, which means we can splash him for more. And we hit him in the track underneath his vehicle, and we hit him for 630 odd. And again, that's where you don't need to pen things to be able to do damage. Oh no, Mr. T44, you've made mistakes. Put the shot in for 948 there into Mr. T44, who had absolutely made mistakes. And we're up to 8,957 damage, nearly 9k damage. We see the Centauro. I can't really pen that with 170 pen Hesh. He's coming back over because I'm unspotted. He doesn't know the danger. I switched to the 220 pen, put the shot straight through his lower plate for 1240. That's a high roll. Putting us on 10,000 damage. 10,197 damage with 1,228 assistance. So we're at, what, 11k combined so far? And there's still 3 tanks left. We're on 5 kills. Yeah, we've hit that 10k mark, which is absolutely filthy. And like I say, this is the first time I played the AVRE in nearly, well, I think I played it once since I made that video 2 years ago. And playing it now was still, yeah, it's a lot easier to get penned. I don't feel like I'm as impervious to just take, you know, to not getting penned like I was back in the day. But the gun still slaps. The gun still slaps as we put that shot into the M48. Round Panzer, and it's still very easy to do quite a bit of damage with this vehicle. Naturally, if it gets rushed by 3, 4, 5 tanks, it's going to die very easily because they'll get around the side, you'll chunk someone's health away, but for the most part you'll die. But yeah, you're still going to smash someone's HP away quite easily with this gun, and we're up to 10,763 damage. And there's one vehicle left on the enemy team, which is a Moisture. And I'm looking at Moisture going, where would he be? There's only really 2 places I'd expect that Moisture to be. Number 1, either somewhere along the 890 line. He's been trundling along the beach, which is a horrible thing to do here on Sword Beach, because for some reason the terrain resistance on Sword Beach is awful, and every tank is a snail along the 890. So he's either trundling along the 890 and not really done much, or, because no one went along the 1 line, he's managed to get himself slowly but surely down the 1 line towards our cap. So our whole team has gone towards the 6, 7, 8, 9 line. So I'm just going to take the gamble that he's gone this way. This is a 50-50. It could be anyway, right? We are capping though. We've got 2 people in the cap, so I'm fully expecting we're going to cap before we get anywhere near him, and we're at 10,763 damage, and that's going to be the end of it, which is actually really close to... Actually, I think it's slightly, ever so slightly above the highest damage I've ever done at tier 10. Because I believe that was about 10,750, and that was in the M48 pattern a long, long time ago. But I digress. The tank starts capping, telling us exactly where it is. Mr. Moisture is in our cap area. We've still got 2 people in the cap, but someone keeps feathering it. I'm thinking, ooh, I might have a chance to get a shot in. And if that Moisture's full health, I could be hitting 12k damage here. That would be wowzers. That would be wowzers. So we're just trying to get there as quickly as humanly possible. Hope he hasn't gone into the K-line area, so I've got easy shots at him. And there he is. There's 6 seconds left to cap, so I've got to rush this shot to make sure I'm getting the pen. I fire it, and someone feathers the cap. So we fired. We got really unlucky with the RNG because it was only a little bit was on that rock. And so we ended up missing the shot on the Moisture. And I sit there going, oh, we're not going to get any more shots. But just then, the hero on the cap gets off. And so we're able to drive up, aim the shot into his lower plate, and we're splashing for 336. If we'd fired the standard Hesh, we'd have done more damage. I thought I might still be able to pen it, but that angle, it didn't work out. But we still managed to get a fantastic, amazing total there for the Centurion AVRE. Finished with the 5 kills, 11,212 damage, my highest ever damage at tier 10 that. With the ace tank of the high caliber, the sniper medal, 2,051 base XP. And yeah, that's the AVRE that's been nerfed. You do feel it. It's a lot easier to take out from the front now. You don't get the stupid, crappy bouncers that you got beforehand, which is good. That's been fixed, which is great. The gun handling and the gun in general is still absolutely immense, and the penetration nerf hasn't really been felt that much unless you're using the premium rounds all the time. So the Centurion AVRE is still very, very strong at what it does. And if you're thinking that they've nerfed it, oh my god, they're going to make it the worst thing in the universe, that's not happened. It's still pretty crazy, but there we go. So yeah, that's the Centurion AVRE, and it's nerf. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!